Good evening and welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez has announced plans for two major hotel developments totaling $1.3 billion, expected to significantly boost the country's tourism and employment sectors. Speaking on the ULP Speaks program last night, Gonzalez revealed that in the coming weeks, the government will host signing ceremonies and groundbreaking events for a Marriott resort and a beaches resort, both to be located on the leeward side of the island.
Be neighbors to one another. Only Public Mountain Beach will be between them as the separator, and together those two investments will represent over $1.3 billion. That's billion with a B. Over 1.3 billion EC dollars in investment on the leeward coast and in hotel development. You're going to hear more about that, because if I get into that now, we're going to be here for another hour. But you're going to hear some big announcements there. The Prime Minister will be there with the investors to turn the soil. And you'll remember that those things, not just $1.3 billion in investment, but they will represent about 2,000 jobs in the hospitality space that will be created out there once those resorts are open. Sandals is expanding. They've already started building new villas at the Sandals Resort, and they plan to go over the next few years from 300 rooms to 500 rooms at the Sandals Resort at Bucament. The Beaches Resort that they build, they're going to start with 375 rooms, and they're going to build out to 600 rooms at that facility. That leeward coast is going to be the epicenter of high-end mass tourism in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it's going to be one of the most exciting strips, hotel and resort strips anywhere in the Caribbean.
Turning to the political front, Gonzalez said the Unity Labour Party, the ULP, is actively preparing for the next general elections constitutionally due this year. He noted that during the most recent candidate selection exercise in the West St. George constituency, all 15 constituencies have now selected candidates. These names have been forwarded to the ULP Central Executive for final approval.
As the time has progressed, as we've moved forward, you've seen the energy growing, the turnout growing, the passion growing, and you can see that the ULP base is waking up and getting into campaign mode. And I think that when Comrade Ralph had his event in Connery, which was bigger than a usual candidate selection, I think that was a signal to a lot of comrades that it's time for us to now start focusing on the fact that an election is coming, and we have an election to win. The recent ones, Comrade Curtis King, Comrade Sister Kisal, Carlos James, Comrade Saboto, Darans, Luke's in East Kingston, Chevron's in Union Island. You can see over time the passion growing among the supporters, and you see that we're getting into campaign mode.
Gonzalez noted that 40% of the ULP's candidates slate for the upcoming election will consist of first-time candidates, all of whom he emphasized bring professional experience.
We have a lot of fresh faces coming forward. We have Kisal, we have Grenville, we have Marvin Mega Fraser, we have Chevron, we have Grace, and we have Rodan. Six fresh candidates putting their name forward for the ULP. Two of those 6 in seats that we currently hold, and the other 4 in seats that we hope to win in the next election. And you start to see the taking shape of the next administration, the next ULP administration led by Comrade Ralph, where you're going to have some fresh faces, some first-timers with energy, but even though they're first-timers in elected office, Some of them very experienced, like Kisal, for example, has been a Minister of Foreign Affairs, she's been a Minister of Social Development, she's been sitting in the cabinet for years now, the last 5 years. Same Grenville has been in the cabinet for a very long time. Grace has been very, very connected to government policy, particularly in healthcare. So they're first-timers, but they're not inexperienced first-timers. We have some fresh energy coming into the party, and a very, very youthful lineup when you think about it. Although Comrade Ralph will be the oldest candidate contesting the election, when we form government after the election, the second most experienced person in the ULP government will be Comrade Saboto Caesar, who has served in Parliament as a senator and been elected 3 times as a representative. And
the ULP is expected to hold its National Council meeting on Thursday, September 11th at the Russell's Auditorium, which will include the approval of its candidates. And Opposition Member of Parliament for the Southern Grenadines, Terence Oliver, has issued a rallying call to residents to vote with their memory card in the next general elections, citing decades of underdevelopment and government neglect in the constituency. Speaking at a political meeting held in Canouan over the weekend, Oliver emphasized that the people of the Southern Grenadines have been sidelined for far too long, declaring that 25 years is too long for these islands to be neglected. The MP also pointed to what he described as an inadequate government response following the devastation caused by Hurricane Beryl last year. He accused the government of using the hurricane-ravaged islands for photo opportunities rather than launching meaningful recovery and rebuilding initiatives.
Our beautiful islands have been sidelined. We have been ignored. We in these islands are underdeveloped. We face broken system, worsening standard of living. I mean to say, 25 years is too long for you to neglect the people of the Southern Grenadines. It is too long. And in the wake of Hurricane Beryl, you expect that people would come genuinely. But all they were doing is coming down in Canouan, Myro, Union Island, and they pose at the square, and they take out a picture, and then they went back up. And that is what was happening all the time, was merely photo op.
Hurricane Beryl made landfall in July 2024, causing significant damage to infrastructure, homes and livelihoods across parts of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, particularly in the Grenadine Islands. Oliver also raised serious questions regarding transparency in post-hurricane relief efforts. He claimed that although an initial allocation of funds had been approved for recovery in the Southern Grenadines, further attempts were made to secure additional financing without clear reporting on how the original funds were spent.
Government in July last year, they got what Parliament approved, $136.4 million. Mr. Way said he had planned to give 25 million, but he extracted out of him 5 times that amount. So that is another $100 and something million. And then you came back to Parliament again, looking for another $100 million to do the same things that you said you were supposed to do. You tried to bowl a googly, and you came to Parliament to say we need $100 million more to do what you were supposed to do in the first place. But yet you had quite a number of persons still in temporary accommodation on the mainland. And I want to say to you, the people of Canouan, to the people of Southern Grenadines, and those who are on the live listening to wherever you are, when you go out to vote, you need to vote with your memory card. Vote with your memory card, because you will realize that for 25 years, the people of the Southern Grenadines have been neglected.
In addition to recovery concerns, Oliver criticized the deteriorating state of infrastructure throughout the islands, particularly the roads. He described them as unfit and dangerously inadequate for both residents and visitors.
Look at the roads throughout Canawan. You know how many times I talk about the Barbaros Village Road, this road leaving from the Anglican Church to the junction where Miss Cecilia live. You go up in Friendship. Well, Miss Dolly, I tired call her name in Parliament up and down the place, and she died without even the road being fixed and the drain behind her house being fixed. That is the kind of things that this government has been doing to you. Check it out. Now, anybody, you go across the bank, a big piece of plank in the middle of the road. Warning vehicles not to pass there. This is what you will call the tongue. And look at the road even from the bank, the administrative building, look going down the place. Oh God, it's a shame and disgrace what this government is doing to the people of their islands. And I'm saying to you that an NDP government will make sure that you have proper roads in these islands. I mean, we are a tourist isle, and whether tourists or not, you should have this type of facilities that is needed.
Oliver, long-standing member of the opposition New Democratic Party, closed his speech by urging voters to remember the years of neglect when they head to the polls. General elections in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are constitutionally due by 2025, but political activity is already ramping up across constituencies. In other news now, we hear that Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has underscored the importance of strengthening ties between Africa and the Caribbean, proposing visa-free travel between the two regions as a key step toward deeper integration and collaboration. Dr. Gonsalves made the remarks while addressing Caribbean heads of government, Ethiopian government officials and members of the Rastafari community during a high-level event held on Monday in Ethiopia.
In 2005, when I came here, I held discussions with the then Prime Minister, Meles Zenawi, and we signed an agreement between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Ethiopia to abolish visa requirements so that Vincentians can come here without a visa and Ethiopians can come to St. Vincent and the Grenadines without a visa. We have to make sure that this kind of arrangement, we elaborate it and extend it across Africa and the Caribbean. There may be challenges and hiccups along the way, but we know the direction and the path in which we are going.
The Prime Minister also spoke on the issue of reparatory justice, a long-standing demand from Caribbean nations seeking redress for the historical injustices of slavery. He acknowledged the ongoing challenges in the global push for reparations, but expressed confidence in eventual success. Dr. Gonsalves noted that the event marked a historic moment, highlighting that it was the first time so many Caribbean leaders were present in Ethiopia at once. He emphasized the symbolic significance of their gathering in Shashamani, a town with deep historical and spiritual ties to the Rastafarian movement. Shashamani is the site where the European government under Emperor Haile Selassie granted 500 acres of land to members of the Rastafarian movement from the Caribbean and the diaspora in recognition of their spiritual and cultural connection to Ethiopia. The local news, we hear that the Ashley Lashley Foundation, with support from the United States government, has completed a two-day climate resilience workshop in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as part of its regional initiative, Community-Driven Strategies for Stability and Resilience. Held at the Holiday Inn Express at Diamond, the workshop brought together diverse stakeholders to co-create practical climate solutions grounded in lived experience. Ashley Lashley, founder of the foundation, and youth advisor to the UN Secretary General, said empowerment means putting power in the hands of those living the crisis: youth, women, farmers, fisherfolk. She said the workshop ensures that they are no longer left out of the room. The workshop, held from September 4th to the 5th, is part of a broader program taking place in Grenada, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and Grenadines. The two-day workshop began with a focus on community, featuring sessions on community action planning and the National Adaptation Plan process, along with sector-based focus groups that engage youth, women, MSMEs, farmers, and other key voices. On the second day, the agenda shift towards policy and advocacy, with training on messaging and data use, a private sector roundtable on climate resilience, interactive simulation exercises with decision makers, and a closing session for community commitments and networking. The initiative supports the Antigua and Barbuda agenda for SIDS and the creation of inclusive national adaptation plans across the Caribbean. Its ultimate goals include people-centered policy briefs submitted to national governments, regional toolkits for climate adaptation rooted in community knowledge, and sustainable peer networks to foster ongoing collaboration. Founded in Barbados, the Ashley Lashley Foundation champions youth empowerment, climate justice, health equity, and gender inclusion across the Caribbean. Its mission is to center the voices of the most vulnerable in the decisions that shape their future. Welcome back. In more local news now, we hear that police are currently investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of Sharon Elizabeth Ashton, a 43-year-old domestic of Longwall, whose body was discovered at approximately 11 a.m. today at the back of her residence. A news release from the SVG police force says police were alerted to the discovery of the adult female who was met lying motionless with what appeared to be multiple stab wounds. The district medical officer attended the scene and pronounced Ashton a deceased. The magistrate then gave permission for the body to be removed. Crime scene personnel processed the scene. A post-mortem examination will be conducted to determine the exact cause of death. Police are urging anyone with relevant information to contact the police control at 784-457-1211, the Criminal Investigations Department Major Crimes Unit at 784-456-1810. The SVG police force extends condolences to the friends and family of the deceased during this difficult time. And SVG-PF has arrested and charged one of its own, Kyle Nimblat, a 22-year-old police officer of Byra, with the offenses of attempted murder, aggravated burglary, and damage to property. According to investigations on September 6, 2025, the accused, without lawful excuse, damaged one aluminum and glass window valued at $400 EC, the property of a 50-year-old baker of Villa, by smashing it with an unknown object intended to damage same. He was also charged with entering the property of the same complainant as a trespasser, and at the time had in his possession offensive weapons, namely a pair of scissors and a knife. Lastly, he was charged with the intent to commit the murder of 20-year-old sales representative by an act which is more than merely preparatory to the commission of the offense, by stabbing her about her body with a knife and a pair of scissors. The offenses were committed in Villa. Nimblet was arraigned before the Kingston Magistrate Court on September 9, 2025. That's today. He was remanded in custody, and the matters were adjourned and transferred to the Serious Offences Court for September 16, 2025. The investigation is ongoing. The police are urging anyone with relevant information to contact the relevant departments. In other local news now, more on a happier note, we hear that the Sandy Bay Secondary School today held a Thanksgiving service at its Montyoung, Georgetown location to commemorate the institution's 20th anniversary. Delivering remarks at the event, Principal Raquel Warwick reflected on the school's journey over the past 2 decades, noting its growth and impact on the community.
This fine institution has developed very much as that of the human body. Today, we stand here as a young adult, not totally independent, but an institution that is ready to embrace adulthood and to make adult decisions. Our birth was one that took much planning on the part of our Prime Minister and the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where the Ministry of Education, under the then leadership of former Minister Clayton Bergin, former PS Laura Brown, Chief Education Officer Susan Duggan, and our area representative Honorable Montgomery Daniel, handed over a brand new bouncing baby into the capable hand of Mrs. Patty Pear, our first principal, and a small staff ready to nurture this new baby. It was from within the boarded walls of the Sandy Bay Secondary School that it not only grew, but thrived into the institution that we now see before us today.
Warwick said from humble beginnings, Sandy Bay Secondary School has developed into a proud institution of learning, producing well-rounded individuals who are making meaningful contributions to society. She highlighted that past students of the school can now be found in various sectors of employment, both locally and abroad, a testament, she said, to the vision of those who founded the institution. She also encouraged both current and former students, along with staff, to continue upholding the school's values.
In fact, I would like to do a little bragging by sharing that many parents are today choosing Sandy Bay Secondary School over other secondary schools in our area. Past students are now proudly registering their children here. I had one parent who seemed to have recognized that perhaps at that time I needed some encouragement, say to me one day just outside my home, and I quote, "Mrs. Warwick, no bother with them. Let the parents learn to support their children." My daughter go there and she get all she subjects and working by the bank now. Sandy Bay is a good school. End of quote. Sports and culture, we have seen countless success stories. We have seen the establishment of a number of co-curricular clubs. And we are not only farmers in terms of agriculture, but also in terms of music. The child of 20 years ago is much larger in numbers in terms of our student population and also in our staff. As we look back with the reflections to come shortly, I challenge us, however, to look ahead. Where would we be in the next 20 years? Will we continue on our path of success? Heaven forbid that we stand still or decline. I encourage us all, our past students and the present student body, to care for your school. Support it in any way that you can. Get involved in all of our planned celebratory activities. Present students, wear your uniform with pride and strive for excellence, as you are now charged with the responsibility of taking Sandy Bay Secondary School into the future.
Area Representative and Deputy Prime Minister, Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel, who also addressed the gathering, said the 20th anniversary celebration marks a significant milestone in the school's history.
20 years ago, what was it like before the Sandy Bay Secondary School was established? And I heard Mr. Child in his reflections brought to bear one or two of the challenges, the difficulties that we faced before 20 years ago. I'm sure except for the children that are sitting here, I'm sure much of you can recall what it was like in the 80s and in the 90s, what our education was like in this constituency, and particularly north of the Rabaghat Dry River. I can say to you, the challenges were great. There was not a secondary school for the children in this constituency. So, whoever had the opportunity of going to a secondary school had to find family or friends to stay with in and around the city, Kingstown. There was no transportation system for the school children. And even where parents got assistance from family and friends for their children to stay close to those secondary schools, it was difficult to sustain a number of these children.
As part of the celebration, the school also recognizes top performing students in the CSEC examinations, applauding their academic achievements and encouraging them to continue thriving for excellence.